is Jonas, I'm an indie game developer, and I've made a lot of games in my life already, but for some reason I keep making the same mistakes. So this is an open letter to myself. I'll force myself to watch this video before making my next indie game, especially before making my next solo indie game.
Oh yes, you will watch.
To remind myself of a couple of things that I want to do differently next time. There's probably something useful in here for you as well, just keep in mind that this is advice to myself. Dear Jonas from the future. This is past Jonas speaking to you. I know you tend to get very excited when starting into a new game project. It's one of the most exciting phases of a game project, and the way I know you, that just completely puts you into tunnel vision mode. We can't have that, so please just temper your excitement. If you want to make a commercially successful game, you need to be methodical and you need to take it a bit slowly. Once you've calmed yourself down a little bit, the question I want you to ask yourself is, do you really want to make your next game alone? You've made a game alone, Will You Snail, you've made a game in a team. Islanders, you know the difference, you're just way more efficient in a team. You can get more done in a team, you can get faster and better results in a team. Of course, there are downsides to making games in a team as well, both has upsides and downsides. I just want you to pause for a second and think about this question. Does it make sense to make another game alone? The next question that you can only really answer once you've tempered your excitement a little bit is now really a good time to dive right into your next big game project, or would it make more sense to work on a couple of smaller game projects for once? In the games industry, there's a lot of stuff going on all of the time. There are new things you need to learn all of the time. Unity is constantly getting updates, for example. So working on some smaller game projects is a really good way to learn and to potentially find some game ideas that you can turn into bigger games later on. Finishing takes a long time and quitting sucks, so better enjoy the time in between game projects where you can make a couple of smaller games. Once you're ready to make a game, remember that appeal and marketability are the most important factors. That's what you should focus on right from the get-go, right from the beginning. I know you, making a game that is fun is relatively easy for you, but making something that is appealing and marketable, that is a lot more of a challenge. So that is what you should focus on right from the get-go, right from the beginning. Make that your main focus. Then next up, prototype. This is advice I give to pretty much everybody who asks me on how to start into a game project. I always tell them prototype. However, for some reason I didn't follow that advice myself for my last two personal projects. I didn't do any prototyping, both for Will You Snail as well as for Ovis Nova. And both of those times I regretted that decision. I wish I would have done that, because prototyping can really improve your ideas so much. It can help you so much to find something interesting, to find an interesting mechanic. You need to design your game in engine and not on paper. I want you to try vastly different things. Once you found something, iterate on it, maybe even make some visual prototypes to test if something is appealing. Because during that entire prototyping process, of course, appeal and marketability should still be at the top of your mind. And prototypes will help you massively to explore how appealing and how marketable something can be. Next tip for you, Jonas, that is kind of related to prototyping as well, is be open for experimentation. Don't go into it with the attitude of, I want to make a tower defense game. Don't go into the development process with a fixed idea of what you want to create. Be open to all solutions. Be open to experiment, because that's the only way you can find something interesting and original. Next up, Jonas, what I need you to do is, once you're starting to get a game idea, is do your research. Do at very least a little bit of research, see if there are any similar games, play those similar games, then read all of the reviews, read through the community hub, what are people saying about the game, what do they like about those games, what do they dislike about those games, because that can give you a lot of good ideas what to focus on in your own game, what you need to pay attention to, and it also tells you if there's even an audience for your game. The main goal of that little research session is to find out if there's an audience for your game. Next up, especially after checking out a couple of other similar games, you need to know what sets your game apart, you need to know what makes your game different, and then you also need to lean quite heavily into that during development. For example, what makes Portal different is the fact that you have a portal gun that can shoot portals. That is a very cool USP, unique selling point. However, now imagine that that portal gun was only a very small aspect of that game. That would not be very cool. Portal is entirely focused around portals. That is the way it should be. So if you have something that makes your game stand out, if you have something that makes your game interesting and unique, your game should be designed pretty much entirely around that, because that's how you get the most bang for your buck. If you have something cool, something that makes your game unique and interesting, then you wanna lean into that. Make the thing that makes your game stand out, stand out. is what I'm trying to say. Then here's something you've usually done quite well so far, and that is creating an MVP, a minimum viable product, quickly. Within 1 month, you should have a game up and running. For Will You Snail, I had playable demos very early on that were just fun little mini games you could play. For Islanders we had that, for Oversnova we had that, and that is just always massively useful because that makes sure you can test it, you can show it to people, you can see if they like it. Related to that is this thought right here: always keep your game finished. I believe that there are different ways to build your game. You can either build it in a way where it basically always looks broken and super unfinished, or you can build it in a way where it basically always looks like a finished game. And I feel like that is the smarter way to build a game, where you're basically always working on a finished game and all you're doing is adding new content and polishing it out. It takes a little bit of extra effort, but it comes with so many advantages. You can publish it at any time and you can iterate it a lot better. You can be like, okay, what does this game need next? The risk of not finishing is a lot lower. Have multiple exit points. Don't build a giant commercial game right out of the gate. Just build a little mini game first that you can publish for free. That's actually something I was quite happy with Will You Snail as well, where I first published the game as a mini game on itch.io, and then I got a lot of feedback from people. I saw that people liked it and they told me, if you turn this into a bigger game, then we want more different enemies, etc, etc. So there were a lot of things I could take from that, and I could also see, okay, there might be demand for a game like this. So I'm very happy that I published Will You Snail as a mini game first, and if that hadn't worked out, then I could have quit there. So have multiple exit points. One exit point is you publish the game as a mini game, and if that is not well received, then you don't go any further. Next up, let people play your game early on. I think we almost already covered that, right? I think it makes sense, it's common sense. But common sense, Jonas, I know you're stupid. Even though something is common sense, you oftentimes don't do it. So just let people play your games early on, get some feedback, it makes sense. And then another thing I've learned from Will You Snail is set up your Steam page early. I'm sitting at around 1,000 wishlists right now, which sure is not a super mind-blowing number, but it is still 1,000 wishlists more than if I hadn't set up that Steam page. So it just makes sense to set up your Steam page early. Okay, I'm done talking to future Jonas. Now I'm talking to you again, YouTube audience and fellow game developers. If you have any advice to somebody who's about to start a new game project, a new commercial game project, please make sure to drop it in the comments below, because then we can just turn this video into a place where you can go when you're about to make a new game or when you're about to start a new game project. Then you can just watch this, read some of the comments, and that will hopefully get you into the correct mindset to make something. Just of course be aware that the advice I gave in this video was specifically for me. It probably still applies to you, but the main thing you need to keep in mind is that everybody is different, and the most important thing you need to do is you need to be aware of your strengths, you need to be aware of your weaknesses, and then you need to find a strategy that utilizes your strengths and finds a way around your weaknesses. That is the most important thing, probably more important than the other things I've mentioned before. Let's just keep that in mind, right? Everybody's different. On this channel I make game development content. Here's more, subscribe, and see you in the next one. Bye.
Have you ever asked yourself why you're here? You taught me how to manipulate and kill on your behalf. So that's what I did.